The year was 1898, and the fog hung thick over Blackwater Bay like a funeral shroud. Captain Elias Voss, a hardened mariner with decades on the water, had seen his share of storms, but nothing could have prepared him for the Caroline Gray. The 200-foot steamship vanished on a moonless October night, her crew of 14 erased from existence. No distress call, no wreckage, just an empty hull found drifting 3 days later. Her cargo of coal untouched, her lifeboats still lashed to the deck. The only clue? A single journal entry in the captain's quarters, its final sentence smeared with something dark and sticky. "They're in the walls." For 30 years, the Caroline Gray rotted at the docks, her hull groaning like a dying animal. Locals swore her corridors echoed with footsteps long after midnight, and fishermen told of shadows darting across her portholes, shapes too tall, too wrong to be human. Then, in 1927, a drifter named Silas Pike dared to sleep aboard her, lured by rumors of gold stashed in her vault. They found him at dawn, curled in the boiler room, his eyes clawed out. His last words? "The lights under the water." Blackwater Bay's curse didn't end there. In 1954, a lighthouse keeper named Martha Hale vanished from Sentinel Rock, the jagged island guarding the bay's mouth. Her logbook told of a glowing tide that rose each midnight, carrying whispers in a language that bent the air. Her replacement lasted a week. He fled babbling about figures waiting ashore, their bodies shimmering like oil on water. The lighthouse stands abandoned now, its beam extinguished, though locals still swear it flickers to life on stormy nights, always pointing toward the Caroline Gray. The darkest chapter unfolded in 1999. A documentary crew sailed to Sentinel Rock to debunk the legends. Their footage, recovered from a waterlogged camera, shows them laughing as they explore the lighthouse. Then, at the 47-minute mark, the audio distorts. A low, wet clicking drowns their voices. The camera shakes as they run, their flashlights slicing through dust and cobwebs. The final frame? A shadow pooling beneath a doorway, a liquid darkness that twists as it spreads. The crew was never found. To this day, fishermen avoid the bay at dusk. They say the water there doesn't ripple, it pulses, and if you stare too long, you'll see them, pale, elongated shapes gliding just beneath the surface, waiting, hungry. Some claim they're the crew of the Caroline Gray trapped in a tide between worlds. Others whisper of older things that slithered up from trenches deeper than hell. But everyone agrees on one rule: when the fog rolls in and the bay falls silent, you don't anchor overnight, because the Caroline Gray still sails. And if you stare too long, you'll see them, pale, elongated shapes gliding just beneath the surface, waiting, hungry. Some claim they're the crew of the Caroline Gray trapped in a tide between worlds. Others whisper of older things that slithered up from trenches deeper than hell. But everyone agrees on one rule: when the fog rolls in and the bay falls silent, you don't anchor overnight, because the Caroline Gray still sails. They've seen her, rotted masts piercing the mist, her engines silent, her deck lined with figures that don't cast shadows. And if you hear her bell tolling in the dead of night, don't look, don't breathe. Pray the fog lifts before dawn, or you might join the shadows in the walls.